What's up, guys? Jason here. We are still in Sitka, power trolling for salmon. I wanted to take this time to explain what exactly power trolling is and how it works. And it's not really like what you would think, like netting fish, like dragging a net or setting a gill net. Power trolling is more like fishing with a bunch of fishing rods all at once. You have 4 lines that you drag, and on those lines you clip leaders, which is your terminal tackle. And those lines are steel, and they're controlled by their own individual reel, which is hydraulically operated. So you feed the steel line down, and on the line there's these little sections with those little notches, and you clip onto those lines in between those notches, and it keeps the tackle from sliding all the way up and down. It kind of traps it in one little area, and you can put as many on depending on how far down you drop your line. See, this particular line here is called 2 fathom line. A fathom is 6 feet, so for every 12 feet there's one of these spaces for your tackle. So as it passes by, you clip it on, the weight drags it into the water and it goes down. The trolling poles, or what look like outriggers, have tag lines running off of them and little insulators that the steel line run through. And as the steel line runs through it, once it hits a stopper, the insulator grabs it and the pole pulls it out away from the boat. So you can have basically a spread with 4 going at one time. On each end, on the outside lines, are these, I call them float boards because they're made of styrofoam, but in the business they're actually called bags. Or that outside line is called a bag line. So that essentially acts as a giant bobber, and it holds that rear line out, that outside line out to whatever depth you want that line to go. You clip that thing on, and it no longer sinks. So if you got 30 fathoms underneath that float board, that's the depth that you can be trolling at. On each side, there's called stabilizers or stabies, and they hang directly below the power trolling poles and are attached fore and aft. And what it is essentially is like a plow. And as we move forward in the water, that plow wants to dig its way down, and so it pulls down on both trolling poles and it stabilizes the boat. Because when we get in rougher waters, the boat wants to sway left and right. And so by putting the stabilizers on, it kind of cinches everything down and it moves a little less. Depending on what kind of fish you're fishing for, your terminal tackle can be different. Your leader length can be different. We're fishing for dog salmon or chum salmon, so the majority of what we're putting out there is like an 18-inch piece of rope that clips to the steel line, and then in the middle is a giant flasher, which is an attention getter, and it's got foil and a color on it. And then you have a monofilament leader from that, and then you have a hook, 7-aught I believe, and it has a skirt on it. And those skirt colors can be different. According to what everybody else says, the dog salmon prefer a blue and pink skirt on the hook. So that's mostly what we're running out here. And so we have probably 10 or 15 per line, and there's 4 lines on the boat. And they're all running at once. Those tag lines that are tethered to the main line also run forward of the poles and attach up front. And in a previous video I talked about the cheaters, the springs. That's what we see on the front side. So when they're loaded up on the back side, the springs on the front side vibrate and chatter, and that's how we know the fish is on. So that's what Brian does on the back side of the boat. Come, let me show you what I get to look at all day long. Alright, so here we are. So a few things that I have to look at to keep this boat going the right direction. Mainly the chart plotter. This is essentially a map, and it's in fishing mode right now, so it shows the contours of the ocean floor, and the numbers in black are obviously the depths. The dotted lines are everywhere I've been. The little boat in the center is obviously us. And so I can study this and figure out a direction that I want to take the boat in. And obviously, if we've gone through an area and we hit a lot of fish, we can keep repeating that. We can keep repeating that path by doing circles around it, kind of like we did there this morning. Or other times we will just run back and forth in a line. So that's the chart plotter. Over here we have the autopilot. Now the autopilot does not drive the boat itself. Essentially what it does, it's like a cruise control on a car, but instead of holding the throttle at steady speed, it holds the steering at a steady speed. Because we have waves and current to deal with, it's always pushing the boat left to right. And so you don't want to stand here and have to constantly work back and forth on the wheel, because it's just exhausting. So what that does is you set it on a heading, and a heading is the degree on the compass. So there's 360 degrees on a compass. So every time I hit to the right or to the left, it changes 1 degree. So if I want to go straight in this direction, I point the boat in that direction and set the autopilot on it, and I can essentially walk away. You know, obviously you want to monitor and everything, but the current or the waves or nothing like that's going to cause it to run off course. I can put it in a direction, lock it in, and go do something else, or just not have my hand on the wheel the entire time. So I basically can steer the boat with these buttons, which I got to correct. So, and that's it. It's that simple. I have a couple of radios, listen to boat traffic with. This little guy here shows essentially the direction of the rudder. So if you're steering the boat left to right, I can see that angle here, which is handy when you're moving the boat like towards the dock and things like that. Throttle here, forward, neutral, stand straight up, reverse is behind, just like a regular boat control would be. But that's basically it. And that's grossly oversimplified, of course, and I'm certainly not an expert, because before I come to Alaska, I never stepped foot on a boat, a power trolling boat. So I've just picked up a few things from doing this for a few weeks, and talking to other fishermen. So that's how it all works. And if we do all these things right, and the timing is right, the weather is right, we're in the right place at the right time, this happens. That had to hurt. Alright guys, in the last video I told you we were going to do something different with the other 2 salmon fillets that we had. Well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to cure and smoke those salmon fillets. But before we do that, let's take a moment, just check out this area we're in. This is a little bay, I guess, or a cove area where we come and anchor up every night out of the wind. I mean, it's a huge difference. Like, we've had some pretty windy, pretty rough days, and the water will be churned up bad out there in the main water where we're trolling. We can come back in here and it'll be pretty smooth. I mean, it's like a lake back here. It's quiet, except for the bald eagles that are constantly screaming. And it's like a little neighborhood. All these people, these are all little islands that are completely secluded. So in order for these folks to go to town, they have to boat in, very similarly to the way Brian and Amy live on Kupernow Island back in Petersburg. So these are our fillets. I've already taken the liberty of removing the pin bones. Of course, if you're buying salmon from the grocery store, you're probably not going to have to deal with that too bad. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do, first thing you need to do, equal parts brown sugar and kosher salt. I've got about a cup of each in here, and this is what we're going to use on the salmon. What you want to do is you want to basically coat the entire piece of fish, top side and bottom side, with a light coat of it, and we're going to pack it in and then roll it up tight. So I'm going to lay a bed of our basically a salt and brown sugar cure mixture. I'm going to lay that down. Lay the fish on top. Cover the other side. You don't really want to have any exposed flesh, but you do want a light, even coat. Once we're done curing this, which is going to take a full day, we'll be back to do the rest of this tomorrow. Then we're going to cold smoke it. Alright, that one's done. I'm going to do the other one off camera. I'll be right back. We've got them coated up well. Let's finish wrapping these babies up. You want to wrap these up tight and firm as possible. It's going to help extract all the moisture. The salt and the sugars are going to start pulling all the moisture out of the fish. And having it tight and sealed up well is going to help keep it from leaking, first of all, and it'll help hold pressure on the fish. Just like, I've already got this one done. You want to put these in the refrigerator overnight. Actually, for at least 12 hours, probably more like 24. Put them on a cookie sheet. Let them sit till the same time the next day, basically. And then when they're finished, we're gonna cold smoke them, and I'll show you how to do that when we get ready to, so stick around. All right, let's get this salmon unwrapped. As you can see, the salt and the sugar pulls out a lot of moisture, which will be in the foil. Flesh ends up looking darker and firmer, which is what you want. It's basically concentrating the flavors. And this is exactly what you would expect to see. So you want to rinse this off cold water. Like that. And then we need to pat it dry. This sit out uncovered, unwrapped, preferably in refrigeration for about an hour or two with good air circulation. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow it to dry even more, and it's going to form a little bit of a tacky surface to it, which is called a pellicle, and that helps attract help the smoke stick to the surface. So we're going to do that, and then once we get stopped and back to anchor tonight, we will get the smoke rolling. All right, guys, last step. We've got the salmon dried off It's already been cured. Now it's time to put some smoke on it. As you can see, dry, it's firm like it should be, and ready to go. So here's how we do this. You don't have to have a smoker. You can use any kind of grill or any kind of kettle or gas grill that you want to use to do this. All you need to do is get a pellet tube. This uses pellets like a Traeger or, you know, Oklahoma Joe or some other pellet smoker would use. These are cheap. You can find them at any box store or anywhere they sell outdoor grills and stuff like that. And the pellets themselves are pretty cheap. This pellet tube is good for about 2 hours. I like to do about 4 hours smoke on this stuff, so I'll have to reload this once, but they sell larger ones. So you can get something that'll just, you know, load it, fire it up, and when it's done, the salmon's done. So this is all we need to smoke it. Okay, the trick to this is we don't want to put any heat on this salmon. We don't want to cook it. We've already cured it. So we want to build a little heat shield for this pellet tube because it will put off a little bit of heat. So I'm just going to wrap a piece of foil around the side of it. And that's really all we need. And then we're going to light it. That should go for about 2 hours, and then I'll have to reload it. So, get the grate back on. I'm going to set the fish as far away from the heat source as possible. Make sure their edges aren't touching. You want to be able to have plenty of circulation around the whole piece of fish. So, all right, that's that. See you when it's finished. All right, guys. The time has finally come. I'm going to try the smoked salmon. Spoiler alert, I've already tried it. I couldn't wait. I wanted to see what it was like. Well, we're going to do this together. Really sharp knife. Shave it really thin at the diagonal. So thin you can see through it. It's perfect. Mild, smoky flavor, tender all the way through. All I need is a bagel and some cream cheese. Some of this stuff's going to find its way on some scrambled eggs soon. Alright, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Be sure to try the smoked salmon. You won't regret it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and the explanation of how this boat works. Hopefully it wasn't just a bunch of confusing mumbo jumbo. So it's pretty straightforward. So, but you can't guess what we're cooking for dinner tonight. Big surprise, right? So, alright, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like it, tell friends, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.